Welcome back to the Real Estate Debate with Mr. Credit on AM 760 KFMB.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for hanging out with us on your Sunday afternoon. You're listening to the Real Estate Debate, the first ever tournament of multi-champions. All of our contestants today have won the show 2 times or more. We have 15 trophies between the 4 of them. Our judge, Jason Gordon from AmeriFirst Financial. How is the score looking so far?
Well, I'll tell you, these are all a lot of great points. As a numbers guy, I think I gave a bit more points to some of the number-related price demographics, so I apologize if that was out of line.
I think that's good.
John, I gave 5, Elizabeth 4, Michael 4, Bryan 6.
Okay, so what are our totals right now?
I don't have to do math, huh? Is what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay,
basically.
You're a numbers guy. Come on.
I need a calculator or an abacus right now. John, we have 12.
Okay.
Elizabeth, we have 12. Michael, we have 7. Bryan, we have 15.
Okay. So Devore has got himself out to a 3-point lead. No flags have changed hands so far. We have not seen a challenge yet. It looked like some challenges were going to happen in the last segment. I saw some people get a little antsy, but nobody threw a flag. We'll see what happens now on Agree or Disagree.
Time now for Agree or Disagree.
Can't we just settle this over the paint?
Agree?
Yes! Yes!
Or disagree.
To call you stupid would be an insult to stupid people! Let's get it on!
All right, Michael Gaddis, you'll be up first in this segment. Agree or disagree. Tell us whether you agree or disagree with the given statement, and then, of course, defend your position. Today's statement is, it is more affordable to rent a home in San Diego than it is to buy one. There was an accompanying article by Katie Thisdale from the Daily Transcript. She wrote, quote, it's more affordable to rent a 3-bedroom unit in San Diego than it is to buy a median-priced home, according to Realty Trac's latest analysis of residential rental properties and houses purchased in the first quarter of 2015. So recent data is saying it's more affordable to rent than buy. What say you?
Well, I think that I disagree. I still think that it's a better investment and it's more affordable to buy. When you compare rent versus purchase, a homeowner needs to consider several things. 1, low interest rates. 2, tax advantages of home ownership. 3, hedging against inflation. And 4, wealth creation of appreciation over the years. We have to compare apples to apples, too. Of course, someone could go and rent a 1- and 2-bedroom apartment or even a 3-bedroom apartment at a lower rent than a single-family residence, a home. I'm assuming that whoever buys the median house in San Diego County would also be considering to rent one of the same or equivalent, nature, not stuffing themselves into an apartment versus a house. According to the California Association the median home price in March of 2015 was $530,000, up from $499,000 in February. The Union Tribune came out with an article today that said it was $456,000, but we're going to discount that and use CAR's numbers. So basically, Paragon says that a house of that nature would be 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, and 1,850 square feet roughly. So to rent a house, I looked at Craigslist. I pulled up all the Craigslist listings that meet that criteria, found out there were 53 of them, added them all up, divided it out to see how much the average rent is for homes like that, and it's $2,790 per home. So if you look at what it takes to buy one of these houses, a VA, 100% financing, 3.375%. Would be a PITI payment of around $3,077. If you take into consideration the tax savings, it would net out at $2,469, which is still lower than that $2,790 number. FHA 3.5% down, 3.625% interest rate, $3,420 PITI. With a net after tax savings $2,829. A conventional 20% down at 4.125% would be a PITI of $2,739, netting out at $2,217. And a conventional at 10% down would be $3,172, netting out after tax savings at $2,604. So you could see that those numbers are still, most of them are still coming below the rent numbers. Now, of course, there's some ancillary costs with home ownership, but if you offset that against the wealth creation value, of owning a home, I think it weighs still heavy in buying versus renting.
Yeah, no, great points you make. Also, you're paying principal on that payment, too. Bryan Devore, do you agree or disagree with the statement that we pulled from the Daily Transcript here in Katie Thisdale's article, which basically said, I'm paraphrasing, but it is more affordable to rent a home in San Diego than it is to buy one?
Well, when I started looking at my answer, at how I was going to do this, and I got pretty far into it, I stopped myself because I had to remind myself, we're not talking about which one should you do. Should you own or should you rent? What we're talking about is which one's more affordable. So I want to make that clear that that's what I'm going to be answering. I do think it's better to own than to rent in some cases not. But what's more affordable? So I looked at the definition of affordable. Just in general, what's the definition of affordable? And it's to have the financial means for, bear the cost, able to afford something. My short answer is I disagree with the blanket statement that she makes, that in general, it's more expensive to own than to rent. And because you have to look at it area by area, just like everything in real estate. Real estate is highly localized. So I decided to look at 4 different markets: Carlsbad, downtown San Diego, Mira Mesa, and Chula Vista.
Okay.
Just to see, is it more affordable to own or to rent? And the caveat I used, Michael looked at Craigslist for rentals. I looked in the MLS to see specifically what closed, because Craigslist is good to see what's out there, but we don't know what they actually rented for. It may have rented for much less or more. We don't know. So if I use the assumptions that they use about the 3-bedroom home rental versus the medium priced home with 10% down, and I use some other criteria as far as interest rate and taxes and so forth, Carlsbad, it cost $571 more to own than to rent. But this was before your tax benefit. So this is all pre-tax benefit, okay? Mira Mesa, $49 more to own, $49. Downtown, it's about a wash. And Chula Vista, it's $28 more to own. Now you factor in the tax benefit. I'm not a tax expert, so I can't tell someone if they're going to be saving money on taxes or not. But if you factor that in, most cases people get the tax benefit. It's way more affordable to own than to rent. If you take specific homes, it's even bigger than that because, for example, in Carlsbad, there's a home in Calavera Hills that it was $160 cheaper to own it, a certain one that actually sold in a complex, versus to rent the same model. And it goes on down the line. In downtown, the cheapest rental is $3,000.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. And if you put more money down than 10%, it's even more of a difference. The biggest problem, though, and so again, I disagree. The biggest problem we have, and it just came up in an article today, housing prices threaten growth, and rentals are going up, home prices are going up, and that could be a problem for economic growth in general, but that's for another debate.
Well, I love the data that you guys have, the research that's been done here to help make this point. This is amazing, the amount of information. We've got to figure out how to blog all this stuff. I don't know how we're going to get all this on the blog.
I got
got
all kinds of stuff I can give to you.
Yeah, please do. We'll post that. This is great stuff. All right, we're still in agree or disagree. We're over to John Lieber now. John, do you agree or disagree with the statement it's more affordable to rent a home in San Diego than it is to buy one?
I disagree. I will say there are certain cases when in the short term it might make a little bit more sense to rent. But the beauty about San Diego is you've got so many different options at all price points. You really have homes that are decent, I'll say they're probably condos, for $200,000. You can buy a multifamily property like I talked about, and you can come up with a total mortgage payment after you net out the rental income that's probably the same price as renting a room somewhere. So you can create a lot of different options to make it much more affordable than renting if you're willing to do something like that. The other thing here is looking at the long-term implications of renting versus owning. Let's say, for example, you've got a $2,000 a month rental right now. If we're assuming that there's probably a 3% rental increase per year, in 10 years that's about $2,700. In 20 years it's $3,600, and in 30 years it's $4,900 is your rent. And guess what? In year 30, the other guy owns his home outright, and you're paying $4,900 a month in rent. So unless you're only going to be in an area for a couple of years and don't want to deal with all the hassle, and it is a bit of a hassle getting situated and trying to figure out where you're going to be and everything else, long-term investment-wise, it's such a better investment. One of the things I had pulled up was the National Association of Realtors says the average net worth of the homeowner is $200,000 nationwide. The average net worth of a renter is $5,000. Wow. Is their most recent. I mean, it's skewed a little bit because you've got a lot more younger renters, but my response to them would be, well, buy something now and get started in creating something for yourself sooner. Yeah. I mean, and with that stat, the average home was only $170,000 nationwide.
Right. So
there's a big discrepancy. You've got people that are financially more savvy that are buying homes and making wise investments, and as an investment, The answer is it more, or the question is it more affordable or not? I mean, you just can't afford to not do this.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense.
That's very well put.
Can I add something that doesn't give me points? It's fine with me. But you said average rent increase of 3%.
Yeah.
Nationally, it's 14% right now.
Yeah, it's off the charts, crazy.
Yeah, I
he
just
was
went
being
with a
conservative.
No,
number.
I know, exactly. But it's even more so.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, good point. Elizabeth Story, do you agree or disagree with the statement? It's more affordable to rent a home in San Diego than it is to buy one.
Well, I think Katie's making a statement, a very sophisticated statement with very unsophisticated data. So she was using, and I want to really make this clear, she was using fair market rent versus median income and only a 10% down payment, which is more expensive than buying a house using 20%, as we all know, because of mortgage insurance. So that's the data that she is using. I chose to look at this like a client, not as the market as a whole, because whether or not it's cheaper to rent or buy is a very, very individual situation. It's a very sophisticated, and there are 15 different factors at minimum that you need to put into a calculator to answer that. Their tax benefits, building equity, how much you can afford to put down, interest rates, your desired lifestyle, where you want to live, rental rate increases. According to the Union Tribune, from 2004 to 2014, the average rent in San Diego County rose 24%. That same article says that by 2019, there will be a 19% increase in the current rents. Okay, so if you use those numbers, it changes the game when you're actually looking at real and true market data. You also have to consider inflation rate and return on your investment. So if you're you're renting because you want to save this much money, well, what are you doing with the money? If you're spending it in the bar, then it's not working for you. If you had been spending it on your house, it would have been working for you.
Working for me.
Okay, so what are you doing with your quote-unquote savings if you are in fact actually saving? Because if it's caught in your house, it's no longer liquid and it's accruing equity, whereas if you're not investing it at whatever rate of return that you're supposed to get, then it's lost money. So those are all the factors that you need to look at. So what I would tell people is, also consider millennials. They're moving out of their parents' houses, and previous homeowners who are choosing to rent and still have credit issues from the Great Recession, they're going to be renting in very different areas, right? Somebody who has 2 kids and cares about school districts probably going to be in, North County or El Cajon, whereas the millennials, they don't want to drive. They want to walk everywhere. So they want to live in downtown, and they don't care whether they're getting equity or not because they just care about location. So the bottom line for me is it's a very individual, very sophisticated question that you really have to look at all the numbers side by side to really know what the true math is. So I did the math. I did it more realistic because I don't think a lot of us here are making the median income. So I did it at $725 purchase price, 20% down, 30-year fixed, 3.75% interest. If rents go up 4% and you stay there only 5 years, then it would be cheaper to rent at $26.65 for that exact same house. Now I'll challenge you to go find one. If rents go up 10%, then the money that you have to work with now goes to $23.78. And it also matters how long you stay in the house. If you stay in the house for 20 years, that number goes down to $800.
What?
And I just had to put in an offer on a property, for example, where the people renting it had been there 20 years. So it's not just about what the price is, it's how long you're going to stay there. If you stayed there 30 years, you don't even have rent anymore. You're mortgage free. So the answer is you can't answer the question without knowing the whole situation.
You need to know the totality of the circumstances.
That's
totally
right.
agree. That was
a blanket statement.
That was an awesome rant. That's going to make a very good YouTube video right there. I have a feeling. All right. It's that time. When we come back, it's time for the win. Who will walk away with the first ever Tournament of Multi-Champions trophy here on the Real Estate Debate? Stick around. We'll make you smarter than everyone else. It's guaranteed.